All right, everybody, we are live, and I am here, joined by the great Jim Wynorski. How you doing, Jim?
Doing great.
Good to see you. I mean, for those who don't know Jim, trust me, you know Jim. You're close to what, 200 films almost?
170 something.
I mean, that's just mind blowing to me. But there's some of the movies people watching, the horror, because you've done all different types. You've done family friendly movies. You've done a few Christmas movies, the erotic thrillers, the parody films, and the horror. Just so much. And I mean, Chopping Mall has always been a blast and a classic. Sorority House Massacre 2 and 3, Munchie, not a horror movie, but I remember watching that movie as a kid. With that was Jennifer Love Hewitt's first role. Ghoulies
Sorority House
4.
Massacre 3 is not the title.
It's Hard to Die, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and we'll get into how that changed because I know it was a remake,
Not
basically,
really. It
of
was
two.
it was a make two again. That was what,
Yeah, and they all played the cast played all the same different characters, but it was the same
yes.
cast members. It was an
Yes.
interesting way of doing it. So when did you were you always a horror fan, or did
Yeah,
that
when I was a
come?
kid.
Okay, what were you into back in the day?
Whenever I could see on New York television. And that was a
That
lot. You know,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're a Long Islander, fellow Long Islander.
they had Channel 9, Channel 7, Channel 11, 5. They all had
Yeah,
horror movies.
yeah.
And I watched all of them. Chiller Theater.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
Chill with
I
you there.
saw I saw every one of them. Channel 2, CBS had the Harryhausen black and whites.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I saw a
So
lot of
so
pictures.
you've just always been a fan of the genre and
Yeah,
film.
the TV guide used to come in. I used to go through and circle what I wanted to see.
Yeah, that's actually how I'm 36. I saw Halloween on Halloween night at 6 years old, and I remember looking through
Good
the
for
TV
you.
guide. I remember looking through the TV guide and saying,
Yeah.
I had no idea what I'm getting into. I just saw the name and I said, "That's today." So I threw it on, and it just blew me away. That's something I remember vividly. But great to hear you were always a horror fan. So what made you get into the film industry, into directing, is this something that you knew you
Money
wanted
and
to
hot
do?
chicks.
Okay, that's a great answer. I mean, there's not many better answers there, and you see that through all of your films that I have seen. It's just always a fun time, always a blast watching a movie of
Yeah,
yours. What
I had a lot of
was
fun. I had a lot of
Yeah,
fun making most of them, and they were fun to make. And I get a kick out of making my own flicks, and I found out that there was a lot of people out there who enjoyed them, so I
hmm.
kept making them.
I mean, they are. It's like the secret Santa of directors. I feel like you are. Like you don't know what you're gonna get, but it's always gonna be a fun fucking time.
Yeah, exactly.
I told you I checked out. What was it? Um, the the big woman movie. Why can't I remember the
Giantess
name?
Battle Attack.
Giantess. Yeah, attack. That's it. I said the gag in it is great when there's just naked chicks all over with the giantess, and then you just pop up on the screen. Like, this is the director Jim Wynorski. I got to stop this movie. There's too much gratuitous sex, and then pies get thrown in your face, and then it goes right back to the music and the chicks dancing. I got a great laugh out of that. That's the type of fun that you have in all of your films. I mean, going back to now, the first movie, how do you get into the industry? I know that you met with Roger Corman.
Yes.
So how did that come about with you meeting Roger?
I was working for 20th Century Fox
Okay.
on a pilot, and I was a PA, just a guy that gets sent everywhere to kind of lay the groundwork for people coming in to make a pilot.
Yeah.
And I had just started. It was the first job I ever had.
Okay. Wow.
And
Nice.
because you come to LA and there's no ads for directors in the Sunday Times. So anyway, bottom line is I got a job there, and I'm thrilled that I'm a PA.
Yeah.
The first pilot I work on is a sci-fi pilot, which was a
Okay.
bad Star Wars ripoff called called oh my god, it's been so long now. I don't remember the title, but it's on YouTube, and
Nice.
it was
What?
the first time I saw my name at the end of the show. It was there, boom, and I said, "Wow, there's my name."
It's got to be a great feeling, right? I
And
mean,
uh, but then the guy that made it was thrilled about it, but I kept wanting to tell him that he's making a Star Wars ripoff. He
yeah.
had the same robots, and it was about a family living, a space family Robinson kind of thing.
Is that the title?
No,
What's up,
no,
Ginger? The
it
Lost
was called
Empire? No?
something. You know, it's been so long.
Yeah.
Starstruck.
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 Okay.
That was the name of the
And
picture.
what year was that around?
I'd say it was around 81
Okay,
or
so yeah,
80.
because you started right in the 80s, in the beginning of the 80s.
And it was written by Arthur Kopit, who was a big Broadway playwright,
Hmm.
but he was ripping off Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, blatantly ripping off Star Wars. And no one wanted to tell the producer
Yeah, that hey, this is Star
that,
Wars here.
hey, this is gonna stink. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course it did stink. CBS didn't buy it. And they kind of sloughed it off over the summer in a
Okay.
half an hour spot.
Yeah, just put it in that dead zone, right?
Yeah. And and my buddy who worked on it with me was in the videotape department, and he saved it and put it on YouTube years later.
Oh, that's great. That's how it's still up. That's great. It's
That's how
great
it's,
when you see those older, old films and stuff that didn't get, or shows and stuff that didn't get a chance, and you still have them
well,
because of YouTube today. Because of
this thankfully did
technology.
not get a chance.
Yeah.
So anyway, I started working with this guy, Herbert Leonard, who had made Rin Tin Tin and Route 66. He was a pretty
Okay.
famous guy at the time. And he hired me for their Starstruck, and then sent me to Georgia. He was doing a pilot for Breaking Away, which was another Fox film.
I remember the name of
But
that
with
actually.
Sean Cassidy about bicycle riding. And you could have told him right there, hey, this is not going to work. Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to lose my job. So I just told him,
Of
hey,
course. Yeah.
I'll go down there. And coincidentally, with my arrival in Georgia, where we were shooting, somebody started making obscene phone calls to the girls on the college campus.
Oh wow, really?
And they said, oh, it might be that new guy that came to town.
Yep.
And they told Herbert Leonard, they told him, get rid of that guy. And Bert knew it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And he says, I gotta let you go. And
Damn.
I thought, oh, there goes my career. Okay. Because they're gonna find out that I made obscene phone calls in Georgia.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
but he didn't mention it to anyone else. And he put me back to LA in a first class cabin. He was
Nice return.
classy enough to put me in a first cabin. And I'm in the cabin talking to a woman. She says, "You look so sad." I said, "Well, I am kind of feeling bad for myself." And I told her the story. And she says, my husband knows a guy named Roger Corman. I think I can
Okay.
get you in to meet him.
Wow.
Okay, now, if I had not been on that plane,
Yeah.
if I had not been on that plane, going back to nothing, in
Yeah.
Los Angeles, I would have just gone a different direction. But
It's amazing how those chance encounters,
2 days
come.
later, I was in Roger's office. He had
Wow.
just lost a publicity person.
Hmm.
He saw all the stuff that I had worked on, and he hired me straight there. Boom, got a good salary.
Great.
And I couldn't believe I started a day later. It was like, I think it was a Thursday. I started on Friday. And I would have taken the job for no money practically just to be
Just to be in that world, right, and to
at
learn.
his arm,
Yeah.
And the moment I got in there, I started making inroads into script writing. And I wrote a script for the sets for Galaxy of Terror.
Okay.
I wrote a thing
Galaxy of Terror.
called Forbidden World. It was originally called Mutant, but I think there was a mutant after that, so they called
Okay,
it
they
Forbidden
changed it.
World. And then that was a hit. And
Yeah.
so Roger came into my office and he said, I think we missed the boat with these Conan pictures. We should
Okay,
have made one.
the Conan Barbarian ones.
Yes. And I said, well, it's new. It's still doable.
Yeah.
And he said, well, why don't you go home this week and write one and bring it back on Friday? So that's what I did. I went home and I wrote Sorceress.
Okay.
Which he said, instead of a big beefy guy, put a girl in the lead. Okay.
Okay.
And then I said,
I think I know the film you're talking about, actually.
Can we make it twins? And he said, sure, as long as they're pretty.
There you go.
And so that's how we got Sorceress going. And
So you started as writing screenplays and stuff. Do you once you started directing, which I think what my friend in the chat said, Lost Empire was the first film you directed.
Correct.
Before that, did you know if you wanted to focus on one or the other? Like, did you like writing more or directing?
I wanted to direct because
Okay.
part of the thing with being a publicist is you
Mhm.
get to do everything. You get to create the trailers.
Yeah.
So I was editing trailers. I was shooting new scenes for trailers, and I was getting a taste of action and cut,
Yeah.
And I said, "This is fun," okay? Because I was
Absolutely.
making little mini movies that he was
Yeah.
selling as the trailers, and so I did three. I did Forbidden World, Sorceress, and then I did what did I do? I did Screwballs with
Screwballs. That's right. Yeah.
my
The
good friend Linda
Porky's.
Sheen. Well, that was
Porky's
another thing
in
because
that vein.
We'd heard through Variety that Fox had this movie that was just blasting through all the previews and was getting tons of coverage.
Yeah.
And I took it to Roger, and I said, "Look at this. This film's just, exploding in the previews."
Yeah.
And he says, "What's it about?" I said, "I don't know." And so I had become friends with Linda Shane, who was in Humanoids from the Deep.
Oh,
And,
great movie.
And
Crazy movie.
she was Miss Salmon. And and Linda and I decided to write our own version of Porky's.
Okay.
So she went into 20th Century Fox because she was very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Got the script from Porky's. I don't know how she did it, but she did it.
That's great.
She Xeroxed it and left.
That's funny.
And we read it and we said, "This is just guys trying to get laid." Okay.
Yeah. So we can write this.
And that's what this whole film is about. Guys got out there trying to get laid. And I said, we could do that.
Yeah.
So we wrote this thing called Crazy Times, which ultimately became Screwballs, and that was a huge hit.
Yeah, no,
Roger,
I know. I remember seeing it.
it was in every
Years
video
ago.
store,
Yeah,
and it was so big because we put every raunchy gag we could into the movie, every raunchy gag, and it was fun to do that. And
and it makes sense with with reading the script of Porky's
well,
and
it was
seeing everything that was the
Screwballs
raunchy
was
stuff in that. It's
Screwballs
like we
was
got to throw everything in here. You know, the raunchier the better, probably, right?
that was it.
Yep.
And it was and you know, we went up to Canada and we hung out on the set. We did, you know, Linda was in it, and I was behind the scenes, kind of making sure it got done right. And then I came back here, and someone offered me another offer to write a script.
Mm.
And I said, I'll write one for you cheap if you can let me direct it.
Okay, so that's how you got into with
And
the
I showed him, you know, stuff I had done already. I mean, there was a movie called Island of the Fishmen.
Island of the Fishmen. Okay.
Island of the Fishmen. Roger bought it, and he was he said very bullish on it. And he wanted it to be a big success. And it was terrible. It was shot in Italy,
Yeah.
and it had some monsters in it. But you could obviously tell guys in suits. And so I watched it, and I said, I can't come up with a trailer for this.
Yeah. Trying to figure out how to cut. Yeah, how to cut what you have into
And
the trailer.
he said, just cut a nice trailer based on the movie. Okay. So I did, and it went out. It died. It died because it was set in 1880. 1880, and
Oh, okay.
it was an old-fashioned looking movie with damsel in distress. It was Italian, and it was just kind of wishy-washy. And
yeah,
I was afraid to lose my job. Okay,
because of how it was going. Yeah, and
because
then
of how
having to cut the trailer
said,
from
if I
what
make
you're
a trailer on this,
looking at.
it's gonna bomb.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell that to Roger. I just said, because you know, I wasn't ingrained enough to say that to him. So
Yeah.
anyway, it went out and took a nosedive. Nobody, you know, Roger had
no
paid a
one
lot of
wanted to
money
go near
for
it.
it. We paid a lot of money for it, and it made 10 cents.
Wow.
Okay. He was so disgusted with it that he said, come up with a new title and see what you can do. Okay. And Scanners was popular at the time.
Oh, great movie. That's a top film of mine. Cronenberg.
I said, let's call it Screamers.
Okay.
I mean,
that works. You know, that little trick.
They're men turned inside out, and worse, they're still alive.
Yeah.
And I said, I have to cut a new trailer, and I have to make a new trailer with new footage. So they were shooting Galaxy of Terror at the time, and I hired a girlfriend at the time to come down on a Sunday, and we'd use the Galaxy of Terror big sci-fi.
Okay. And film new stuff there.
And I called Rob Bottin, who had worked on my first pilot, which was Starstruck.
Yeah.
And I said, Rob, do you have anything that looks like an inside-out man? And he says, I don't know, but I got some stuff I could bring down. So you come down on Sunday, and we're going to make the inside-out man. And
great.
I sat there all afternoon because we didn't want to start early because it was Sunday.
Yeah.
We got there around 11 o'clock. And we shot all afternoon on these big sci-fi sets.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
And then created a trailer called Screamers. They're men turned inside out, and worse, they're still alive.
It's a great tagline.
So I cut the trailer, and Roger says, test it in Georgia. I don't know, for some reason I always go to Georgia. But we took the trailer to Georgia and tested it on Friday night.
Okay.
This is when I first started there, so I hadn't directed anything or written anything yet.
Yeah.
And I got a call at 7 a.m. on Saturday, and it's Roger. And, Jim, what did you put in that trailer for Screamers?
Because it was much better than the previous trailer.
And I told him, I said, this is what I did. Because he didn't want to see it. He was so disgusted with the movie.
Okay. So yeah, he didn't even want to check the new trailer.
He sent it out with what I had done.
Okay.
And he says, well, is it in the movie? I said, no.
Yeah.
Movie.
About that. It's not.
And I'm thinking, this is my last conversation with Patrick Corman.
Yeah. I can imagine.
He says, well, we're going to have to put it in the movie. Get your butt down here to the stage, the studio, and we're going to cut your footage into the movie.
Okay.
And
great. The way he was able
to
make those work.
He'd ordered breakfast, and I was there with a friend of mine, Tony Randall, and we were cutting this footage I'd shot into reels of film.
Yeah.
That was the original Island of the Fishmen.
Yeah.
And
wild.
And we were putting it at the heads of each reel. He said, find a place near the head of each reel where you could put some of this footage.
Okay.
Because he didn't want to
spread it out.
And go into it. And that's what they did. They had 25 prints of this movie. And they went through all 25 prints, made duplicates of my footage, and put it into the movie. And,
it's really wild how and since you became like he was a mentor to you and a great friend, Roger, the way that you guys and Charles Band too, which the way that you guys are able to use such low budgets for films, but use such creative ways and ideas, or like you just said, like editing something else into another movie, changing a title, just all the little tricks of the trade that you learn to make a movie get made, and fast too. I mean, that's something I'm guessing that you mostly learned from working there for Roger, is how to just take that low budget, whatever the budget is.
Stuff they do not teach you in film school, ever.
Yeah.
Because I'd gone to film school and I didn't learn any of that. And it's the most important thing to learn. Roger took me the day before I did Chopping Mall.
Mm-hmm.
Roger said, grab a pad, a legal pad, and bring a pen. And he took me out to lunch, and he gave me film school 101, and in 2.5 hours, I learned more than I learned at a year of film school at college.
It's amazing. It really is. It's similar with a lot of things. They don't teach people things in college that you really need, and they teach you other things. So the same thing here. You got more out of those 2 hours. Writing some down with him.
In 2 hours, I learned so much. He would ask me questions, and it was like a test.
Yeah.
I think he says, you're shooting into a phone booth. Where do you put the camera?
Mm.
And okay, so you're a smart guy, you're a smart ass. You say, well, I open the top of the phone booth and I put the camera above and shoot down. He says, no, you don't. You're shooting someone's head. Okay?
Yeah.
And I said, you're right. You're not seeing his face.
Mm-hmm.
He says, well, what do I do? He says, well, you put the camera so you're shooting into the corner of the phone booth.
Okay.
Between where the phone is and the window.
Yeah.
It's a V.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he said, that gives you depth.
Yeah.
And you still see your subject.
Yeah, and it's like you're looking into the actual booth. It's
Yes.
the angle and everything. I mean,
and you can see someone's face, and it doesn't require, unscrewing the top of the phone booth or anything like that.
yeah, I mean, nothing crazy, just
And
positioning of the camera.
he keeps that idea going everywhere.
Yeah.
Where do you see the most? Where do you have convergence of lines?
Mm-hmm.
And I always remembered that when I was shooting at any place. I always remembered shooting into a corner is better, better than shooting straight on.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not something that they teach you in film school. It's
No,
just
they
stuff
don't. No, they do not.
These amazing pointers and tricks of the trade you were able to pick up from working so closely and becoming so friendly with like one of the kings of low budget movies.
I saw him every day.
Yeah.
Saw him every day. And his wife Julie got the order to do a film for restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we want to film about a killer in a mall.
Yeah, shopping mall.
And I got together with my friend Steve Mitchell, and we went back to Roger with our version of Chopping Mall. Wasn't called Chopping Mall at the time. That's a great story too. I'll tell you in a minute.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was called Robot.
Okay. Nice, simple.
And it was my interpretation of. There's an old movie I loved when I was a kid. It stinks now because it's boring, but it was called Gog, G-O-G.
Gog. Okay.
Ivan Tours. And it was Channel 5 ran it every month, okay, in New York City. And the premise was that there was a computer in the desert that was controlling everything in an underground scientific laboratory.
Interesting stuff. I believe happens in some capacity.
There were 4 floors or 5 floors, and everything was run by computer.
Yeah.
Everything. And at the beginning of the movie, some Russians or aliens or whatever take an orbit. You never see the aliens, but you see a spaceship above this, orbiting above this place, and it's sending down orders to the computer to kill people at this laboratory.
Interesting premise.
By scientific means.
Yeah.
Including 2 robots called Gog and Magog. And they were kind of like robots on treads, kind of clunky, but they were, for 1954, they were, looking special.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
And I said, I said to Steve, why don't we take that premise and make it a 4-story mall?
It's a great idea.
And put the computer on the roof, have a storm, and boom.
Yeah.
You got killer robots running around the mall at night.
Great idea that you had. Just do that. I mean, it sounds so simple, like the way you say it. Just like, let's just throw it. But like hearing the story of how it turned out that way, it's brilliant to me. Like,
so it goes out to test market. We always had test markets.
Yeah.
And it goes to, I think it went to Phoenix.
Okay.
Arizona.
Not Georgia this time.
Not Georgia. Went to Phoenix. And it went out on a Friday and died. No one went to see it. And Roger was disappointed, of course. And he said, it's got to be something we can do here. This is a good movie. And so on Monday, we pull it in and we're watching it again with the staff in the screening room.
Mm-hmm.
And in the screening room, there's a guy, like a janitor, changing light bulbs.
Okay.
On the floor, those little sparkly lights.
Okay, yeah. I know.
And he's going slow because he's watching the movie. He's in there.
He's slacking out his job watching the movie.
And watching the movie.
That's great.
Anyway, the lights come up at the end, and he hears us talking about what's wrong.
Yeah.
And nobody had a clue. And he says, "Why don't you just call it Chopping Mall?" Okay.
Really? That's how it came about? That's a great story.
Why don't you just call it Chopping Mall? And then I said, we're half off is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And Roger says to me, where shopping costs you an arm and a leg.
It's so great.
I said, that's great. He said, go make the poster.
That's awesome.
So I left. I went. I got rid of the original poster and made new posters that said Chopping Mall with those catch lines.
Yeah.
But back to, I think, Tucson the following weekend. And it went through the roof.
Wow.
It just went through the roof. People came in droves to see it.
Yeah.
Which proved something else to me. It proved that perception is what sells your movie. You can have the best movie in the world, but if the audience doesn't perceive it what it is, they're not going to go.
That's true. And actually, I was just thinking while you were telling that's a great story of where that name came from. I never knew that. Janitor just comes out with Chopping Mall, and then how quickly you and Roger are able to throw taglines right onto it. Like
it
right after
it was
another.
Almost like instantaneous.
Yeah,
like shopping costs you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, that's great how fast that comes together. But my question I was thinking was that because I know when I talked to Charles Band, he loved making posters and the concept art first, like and having the title and stuff. Did Roger and yourself ever were like in a similar way, like making posters first or the title first and then
Roger always said to me, "Don't watch the movie."
Okay.
Don't watch the movie. Just here's the title. Make a poster.
Okay. It makes sense. Because like you said, the perception is everything. And if you can draw somebody in with just a great title or a tagline or great cover art, especially back in those days with the VHS boom.
Galaxy of Terror was originally called Mind Warp. Okay. This is when I was first starting there. I couldn't tell him, Roger, it's not a good title. Yeah. He liked it. He liked the title Mind Warp.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So what happened was, it took a dive. Okay, no one came to see Mind Warp.
Yeah.
And so I came up with this pulpy artwork of a giant monster hovering over a half-naked girl with a rocket ship in the back, and I said,
great.
I said, I came up with a catchline. Hell has just been relocated. Okay, Galaxy of Terror.
That's great.
And people came to see it, and
it shows.
They perceived, they knew what it was now. Mind Warp doesn't tell you anything. Galaxy of Terror, tells you everything, and so that's how some of the stuff came to be.
You have. That's great, and it's so true that give just those taglines alone, which I wish we had them nowadays. I feel like you don't we don't have them as much with films nowadays. Those little taglines, because you don't have the artwork anymore, because everything's all digital streaming today and stuff. So I feel like there's not as
Posters
big of
today,
a focus.
posters today are terrible.
Yeah.
They're usually just, not paintings. They're AI.
No,
Shots.
yeah.
They're
Yep.
AI shots of the actors, and you don't know what
That's
they're doing. They're just headshots.
That's what I never liked about. Well, I've never been a Scream fan. I'm a big slasher movie fan. That's my favorite subgenre of horror. But I never liked Scream and that whole franchise, and then all the movies it ushered in, and so that's where the posters started changing to that. Where the Screams poster, I know what you did last summer. All those type of ones is just the cast members with the title on the
Yeah,
poster, and that was it. And it was such a disappointment back then, growing up in the 90s, in the late 90s, seeing that, and being so used to being a kid going into Blockbuster and seeing the horror section and seeing all the great artwork and posters that stick in your mind immediately. Like, even if you don't end up seeing it then or renting it that time, it's in your head to rent it another time. When next time we're going to Blockbuster, I got to rent that movie with that crazy title or that great tagline on it. So those things definitely do help in I think a pretty immense way. But great how it was changed to Chopping Mall. I mean, that's such a iconic title and such a classic movie. And we had Kelly Maroney, Barbara Crampton. Oh yeah, there's so many in that movie that went on to be just horror icons. How was it shooting that film and casting and everything? Did you guys have an idea who you
I
wanted? Know any of them?
I had just seen Kelly in Night of the
Fast Times.
Comet,
Okay, Night of the Comet. Okay, great, another
and
classic.
Barbara Crampton had just done Reanimator.
Yeah.
So I sought them out, and I sought out everybody in that movie. There was a lot of. I thought the cast really was wonderful,
Yeah, no, it is a great
and
cast.
because it was Julie Corman,
Mhm.
she called in favors and brought in Paul Bartel, Mary Warrenoff, Dick Miller,
Barry Warnoff, that's right. Yep.
and Mel Wells. So there was a lot of Corman alumni
Yeah.
in that movie, and we started filming every night at 7 p.m.
Okay, that's right. Because yeah, it's at that night at the mall. I'm guessing it was mostly all night shoots, right?
Yes, we got to
And
the
the
mall
abandoned
about
mall.
7 p.m., but you couldn't go out and film inside the mall till closing at 9.
Okay.
But we the whole furniture store that was all rented. It was a fake furniture store. We just built all that, brought all that furniture and its props,
Okay.
and just destroyed it. And
Destroyed.
we had to create the mall elsewhere
Hmm.
because certain scenes were done with fire and stuff, and they didn't want that whole mall.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. Go. You could just picture what happened. Oh, we burnt the mall down yesterday.
Well, as you can tell, they let us do a couple of things. Like they let me put Barbara Crampton on fire in the middle of the mall. And I thought that was very, friendly of them. But there was other things that when the robot explodes in the paint store, we put the paint
Yep.
store in the real mall, looking outward into the real mall, and then we built that paint store again in a parking lot at Corman's stage, and
Okay.
for all the looks inside.
Yeah.
So
With the robots, how was getting those designed and working with them? Because mind you, this is your second film, right? That you directed. Chopping Mall
yes,
was your second. So by that point, it sounds like you were very confident and just having fun with what
I
you were
went into
doing.
it with a big, that I was going to make this one really work.
Yeah.
And my buddy Steve and I, who wrote the script,
Hmm.
we were at Hamburger Hamlet one afternoon while we were writing it, and in walks Bob Short, who
Okay.
worked on Star Trek: The Motion Picture and all these big films.
Yeah.
And he sat down. We started having a little lunch. He says, "You know, how would you like to design a robot for us? We need 3." And so he designed that robot, and
That's great.
somewhat based on Steve. Steve was an artist for Marvel Comics and DC Comics,
Okay.
and he kind of scrolled it out. And we showed him the robot from GOG,
Mhm.
and I said, make something cool, and he did.
Oh yeah, I mean the looks of the robots are still they look excellent in my opinion to this day, and the effects too in that movie. I mean especially the head explosion when the laser shoots out and explodes the head.
The head explosion
That is great.
it's all based on the abilities of an editor named Leslie Rosenthal,
Okay,
who
yeah, great job, great
who did
editing.
who got the pace down to bing, 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 bing,
Mhm.
and we put together a way to get that head explosion, but I never thought it would be as good as
Yeah,
it was, because
no,
we had a
that
mannequin.
that one stands out among head explosions in horror history. I mean,
Well,
scanners you mentioned
if
earlier.
you're not ready for it,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was a huge shock.
Absolutely, yeah. No, if the first time you see that movie, you don't expect that, especially with everything that leads up to that and what you've seen so far. It's definitely one of those gotcha moments that I'm sure back I wasn't around back to see it in theaters, but I'm sure
I
that was a
remember
big
that we had a trailer that used to play out in front of theaters on 42nd Street,
okay.
and something they would never let you do now is put that head explosion in a trailer.
Oh
But,
yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
back in '85, it was acceptable,
Yeah,
and we put that head explosion in the trailer,
that was probably a big draw right there just
and
for
we
the
put that
effects.
thing. It would be on a loop, and it would just be on a loop outside in front of the theater, and
That's great.
people would just stand there and watch the trailer over and over and over and over again just to see that head explosion. So that
Yeah.
was kind of cool.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, this like you mentioned scanners earlier, and I think that's probably the most famous head explosion in horror. That Maniac, William Lustig's Maniac, when Tom Savini blows his own head off, then Chopping Mall's up there. Like that's like there's not too many
I think
like
it's
iconic ones, but
it's
that's
the
one.
second best head explosion of all time.
I would put top three probably. I would probably put it as third with Maniac
Okay,
yeah,
I'll take
Scanners.
that.
But it's great and it's such a fun film and yeah the cast is amazing in that and then you work with so many people over the years. I mean, and then you had Traci Lords in what was the name of the movie?
Not of this earth.
Yeah, that's it. I was making that film, working with Tracy.
Well, we had a thing at Corman's studio,
Mm,
um, where we found old Corman films, 16 millimeter,
wow.
up in the attic. Okay, and over the summer, we would pull out these old black and white movies and show them against a big white wall
Yeah.
at the studio. And one time I was there and they were running Not of This Earth. And I said, "Oh man, I'd love to remake this. This scared me when I was a kid." And Roger was going out of town with his wife. And
Yeah.
I said, "I'm going to make this while he's gone."
That's great.
I did. I just finished Big Bad Mama 2, and that was doing well. And I just said, I'm going to make Not of This Earth. And so I started putting together, stuff I could use. And I said, if I had Traci Lords,
Hmm.
I'd have a star because she had just come under scrutiny for being underage in
Yeah.
porn. And finding her was impossible. I had to go searching all over the planet to find her because she was in deep, deep hiding. And
Yeah, I mean, it was such a big controversy back
well,
then.
she was afraid the porno mafia were going to kill her
Yeah,
because they lost so much money. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And
Craziness.
but I found her. Went to Musso and Frank's in Hollywood. Had a nice meal. Convinced her she should do it. And she said, after this, I'm not doing any more nudity. And she's lived up to that too. And we had a good time. We had a 12-day shoot, and the first day she was very nervous. And somewhere in the afternoon, she went into her dressing room and started crying. She says, I'm not good. I'm not good. I can tell I'm not good. I said, honey, you're doing fine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, I'm not. I'm not. Just keep going. You're going to do fine.
Yeah.
So on the 11th day, she says, what are we doing tomorrow? I said, we're doing day 1 tomorrow again.
Mm-hmm.
So go home. You got this down now. Okay. We're going to do day 1 tomorrow. So she came back and she was just like, gaga over that. And we did day 1 again, just her scenes.
Yeah.
And by then she was like, not a novice anymore. She was looking to make good, and she
was feeling more comfortable by then and everything.
She got all her confidence.
Okay, yeah.
And I said, well, we could do day 1 again, and we did. So we shot day 1, and I threw out all the old footage and put the day 12 footage in, and it went well.
Yeah, I mean, she is such a great actress over her whole career, and anytime I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Excision from 2012 with her and Annalyn McCord, but she does such a amazing performance in that movie that I point to that movie for anyone who not disputes but like remembers her for her prior short little career in that industry. I say she's a great actress. Watch Excision and many other movies, but that's a film that she puts on one hell of a performance.
We're still
shout out
friends.
to Traci Lords. She is excellent.
We're still friends. I put her in another movie called Shark and Saw.
Women's Prison Massacre. I've seen that one years ago. That's a blast. I mean, those are some of your later movies are just absolutely just fun as hell. I mean, it's the best word for it. Is just absolute fun times. So with Sorority House Massacre 2 and 3, which I couldn't believe when we were talking the other day, I forgot that Orville Ketchum wasn't the killer in it.
He's not.
I know, because I'm thinking about it.
He's the good guy.
Yeah, because I haven't seen both of those in years. But he's such a great character, and he's such a presence on the screen. Then the things that do happen with him later on, for some reason, I forgot that it was the seance and everything that happened in the house and what happened at the end there. But I never liked the original Sorority House Massacre, but I
didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't know if you did or not, because I know you ended up doing that movie also for Julie, right?
And the movie was done for Julie. It was called The Seance, as we shot it, and was written in 3 days.
Wow!
Because they were going out of town again. Every time Roger went out of town to Europe or someplace, he tried to sneak a film in. Okay,
yeah.
And again, it got written and approved in 1 week.
Wow, that's great.
And it was all written around sets that were already there.
That I knew, yeah, that there were older sets that Roger had around, and you ended up using them.
I mean,
it was the house from
Rock and Roll High School. It was the set from some slasher movie. I don't remember.
Slumber Party Massacre 3.
Okay.
Is that? I think that's it. Slumber Party Massacre 3.
All I know is that they. I wasn't supposed to tell Roger.
And then
The funny part was he came back a week later. We were done. It had already been shot in like 8 days, and
wow.
he came down to the stage, and the stage was trash. It had blood all over the place. He said, "What happened here?" And they said, "Oh, Jim Wynorski came down and was making it look."
Probably was like by that point he's like, all right, that makes sense.
No, but he didn't know it was had. He calls me right away. He says, "Were you here making a movie?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yes, I was, for your wife."
Yeah.
He says, "Well, I want to see it." So, it wasn't even completely cut yet.
Yeah.
But
And I
down.
know some of that movie used footage from Slumber Party Massacre, because
Yes.
both of those series and another film or two that you did later on, Cheerleader Massacre, it's like all one universe. It's like all shared universe between the Slumber Party Massacre, Sorority House Massacres, the
Well, here's the
Cheerleader
thing.
Massacres.
Sometimes had like when you have only 8 days,
Yeah.
you can't shoot a full length movie.
Oh yeah. And
You
like the
can,
flashback there.
but so I was using footage from Slumber Party Massacre
Yeah.
because it bought me 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it gave you that whole backstory of what is the guy's name?
Hochstetter.
Hochstetter, that's right. Yeah, and his whole backstory. So you see, I mean, in the context of the movie, it just shows what editing could do. Taking it from Slumber Party Massacre, putting it in there, it works perfectly fine. Is the backstory for Hochstetter.
Exactly.
And it connects the series together in a way, which is it's fun. So I know Roger saw that, and I'm guessing he liked it, and then he wanted you to.
He said, "I want you to make this. I want you to make this again for me."
Okay.
Because he didn't want. I got the feeling that he was jealous of his wife making this movie. Okay, and I said, "Okay, I'll do it again," but but he had sets with. He had made a film called Corporate Assets.
Okay.
Which were all these buildings. I don't think it ever even got released.
I'm sure there's a lot of movies, probably yourself too, right? Has there been movies you've made that just never that were shot that never came out? Yeah, I'm sure it happens.
I have a movie that I don't want to.
Don't want to. I'm sure that happens too, right?
It was buried, and hopefully will remain buried for all time to come.
Yeah.
I never finished it. They tried to finish it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And
so he wanted you to make Hard to Die in like a different style was where you were going, like a different way.
He said, just make it again. Put the same people.
Yeah, use the same cast. I know it was the same cast playing different characters.
Put the same people in. Go to town, and he said, take Orville to the next level. Okay, because he got that. I was making Orville the Orville was supposed to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
But he was, in my heart, he was the good guy.
And
which is why I let him find love at the end of Hard to Die, So
yeah. No, I mean those are two fun films that have such interesting stories of how they came about, and because a lot of people that see those movies 2 and 3, first they wonder what happened. There's nothing to do with the first Sorority House Massacre, and the second they wonder why the Slumber Party Massacre footage is in there and stuff. So when you know that the history of it and how they were made and stuff, and what you just said, how you cut it in just to save the time because it makes sense. It explains a lot for the people who see those movies for the first time, and don't understand like, all right, why is this?
I made them for people who had not seen any of the other ones.
Yeah, and it makes sense, especially with 2 and 3, because I'm sure people were confused when Hard to Die came out, and they saw the people who saw the second movie and then saw that with the different same cast, different characters. So that's the whole series, but especially 2 and 3 that you did. It's a very, very unique series in the slasher genre, I would say. Trying to let it go. This in chat. We got a question for you too. Um, what's one or some of your favorite memories on a set? Any favorite memories working on favorite films of yours that comes to mind?
Getting shot at.
Getting shot at. Okay.
We were making Ghoulies 4.
Okay. Ghoulies 4. Interesting one.
In a bad area, and some people started shooting at us. We had
Damn.
to run into a building to, keep from getting killed.
It's never fun. Sure, the adrenaline was
I
rising,
don't
but
know if
yeah,
it's
that's
my
never
favorite
fun.
memory, but it's certainly a memory.
Oh, it's definitely one that you don't forget. I'm sure. That I never do that. That's wild. Where were you shooting that Ghoulies 4?
Ghoulies 4 was shot in a kind of industrial area somewhere.
Okay.
I forgot. I did so many movies.
That's what I was just gonna. I was thinking.
You're gonna ask me where I exactly shot something. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's like I don't know at this point. I mean, it makes so much sense. Well, you have. Well, before I get to the newer one, hey Ben, he's seen Papatopoulos where he tried to do Witches of Breastwick in one weekend. Is that still your fastest movie shoot?
My fastest movie shoot is Scream Queen Hot Tub Party,
Great name too.
which was shot in one day.
One day. Okay. Wow.
It had two directors. It was myself and Fred Olin Ray. And we started at 8 a.m. and finished at, I believe, 11 p.m. We shot the whole movie in
That's just wild to me
one day.
Then I guess how long until it was finished? Post production probably took how long with something like that? A 1 day shoot?
It was longer than a day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
But
it's wild how fast and you've been able to make some of these movies and still have them retain so much charm and just so much fun like in them,
it's
and
hard
that
to
they're
do
actually
charm in one
competently
day.
made.
We did it because it was
Yeah,
we were using clips from other movies. So
okay, that makes sense. But no,
but Witches of Breastwick was 2.5 days.
2.5 days. I mean, that's wild. But like I said, it's great how and there's only a few directors that I know and can think of, including yourself, that can do that. Like I said, like Corman and Charles and Uncle Lloyd with Trauma, which we talked earlier. I'm not a big Trauma fan, but the way that you were able to pump out these movies and still make them so much fun, still make them like turn some of them are still classics to this day, and just that they're competently made. They don't feel as cheap as the budget may be, and that's a trick all to itself.
Some of them do.
Yeah, some
I'm
do, of course.
But
a lot of them don't.
I'm always trying to be, competent, as they say.
Yeah, no, it shows for sure. I mean, what was the new film that you're shooting? We were talking about briefly. It's a Catwoman. Yeah. What is it?
My next
Tell
film
us about that.
It's a remake of a sci-fi movie from the 50s called Catwomen of the Moon.
Catwoman of the Moon. That's right. And you start shooting that in January, you said, right?
Yeah, supposedly, yes.
Okay, so that's one of your newer things coming up. Any other new projects? I want to be respectful.
Yes, I want everybody to go watch Dino Gator.
Dino Gator. All right, guys.
It comes out with Michael Madsen.
Oh, Michael Madsen. Great.
It comes out on the 14th of January.
14th of January. All right, guys. Dino Gator.
It's a throwback to all those Sci-Fi Channel movies from the early 2000s.
Great, like all those creature features and stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Which you've done a handful of those too, and those are always fun.
Piranhaconda.
Piranhaconda, that's fun.
Dino Croc versus Super Gator. And,
I don't think I've seen that one. That one. All the title. That's what I mean, though, is the titles really just grab your interest immediately and then make me interested. As soon as I hear a title like that, it's like, all right, how do you not check this movie out? Like just based on the name alone, how do you
Person
not?
of Komodo was another one I did.
Yeah, the names are just
Komodo
great.
versus Cobra was another one I did. I did
The,
so many of these movies.
the Shark and Saw's woman's what is it again? It's just so long.
Arkansas Women's Prison Massacre.
That's probably a favorite of mine. Of all the titles
I was
of
in the
films I
shower.
used.
I was in the
Yeah,
shower,
yeah.
and and I needed a title, and because
It just came to you.
it just came to me in the shower, Sharkansas, because Arkansas.
Yeah, that's great.
And I said Sharkansas, and then Women's Prison Massacre. I just added, and I wrote it that afternoon. I started writing it that afternoon. After
I have to think of the title. Yeah, that's got. I mean, as a musician, I've never made a film, but speaking as a musician, I could see that there's similar things that I'll come up. You come up with an idea, then immediately you start running with it. Like like once a
true.
little thing hits your mind or a melody or something like that. All right, I got to start like working on, and then you go on autopilot after a while, and just it starts unfolding itself into an actual idea.
Yeah, well,
So
sometimes it comes easy, and sometimes
yeah,
you're sitting there. I got one I'm writing now that this is taking a long time.
yeah. It all depends, I guess, on
But I'm
sometimes.
gonna do another dog movie, family dog movie in
That'll be
2025.
great. Yeah, no, there's just how many again? Did you say 170 something, right? Films
Yeah,
that
I
you're
don't
up
know.
to.
I don't know exactly,
It's unbelievable, man.
but it's 170 something.
But don't ever stop. Just keep on bringing them
I'm
out
not.
because
I'm not.
I know that's one thing. Yeah, you could tell from watching any movie of yours that you just adore what you do,
I
and
do. It's not like work. If you can find
yeah,
something that's not gonna give you turn your brain to mush,
yeah,
it's enjoyable and it pays well.
yeah.
So
And you get to work with a whole bunch of fun people, a bunch of naked women in a lot of these movies.
yeah,
Is
exactly.
what better? Like you said, the reason
There's
you
no,
got into the industry in the first place.
there's nothing
Great
better.
reasons.
There's
But
nothing better.
I want to be respectful of your time, man. It's been an hour here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, Jim, thank you
Okay.
so much. This has been a blast talking with you. And if you ever want to come on again, maybe after the new movie comes out, after a few new movies comes out, you want to
Well,
come on and talk about those, whatever you want to do.
it was fun, Gavin, and I'm glad you enjoyed the time. And
Absolutely.
next time, okay?
Absolutely, my friend. Everybody for watching, thank you so much. This is Jim Wynorski, and I'll talk to everybody soon. I'll have a review out later tonight or tomorrow, something like that. But for everybody else, sees us in the future. Thanks for watching. And again, it's the great Jim Wynorski, everybody. Take care,
See you
guys.
soon.